Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. And this is Tristan, he's a Corgi, and this is another episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And today we are wrapping up our series of 16 or 17 episodes about the miracle of flower essences and how we can use the wondrous knowledge and healing properties of flowers to enhance the lives and well-being of our animals and our animals' lives with each other. We have been talking specifically about the flower essences from botanical animal. And I love these flower essences. I have used them for years, and it's a wonderful company. Look, there's even a bee saying thumbs up on the botanical animal flower essences. And we are in my beautiful garden that is full of pollinators. There are bees all around us flying on the bee balm. And these botanical animal flower essences are composed of mostly typical Bach flower essences. And they have been formulated to bring about a maximum function of each of the flower essences in the particular bottle. And as you know, they have names like sibling rivalry and easy does it, so that it's easy for you to know what to use them for. We just lost something. Oh, good boy, Biscuit. There we go. It's a little windy and yes, again, raining here in New England. So these flower essence names are easy to know what you need one for. Like there's one called Mellow Out, when you need your dog to be calmer. Panic Attack, in a very bad situation, you would use that. Sibling Rivalry, when you have trouble with your animal pack getting along. Pasture Mates, in training we talked about. Clear Thinking. There are so many, and you are welcome to review them either on my website, www.sallymorganpt.com, or they are all uploaded on YouTube under Conversations with a Corgi. All 105 or 7 episodes are actually on YouTube at this point. So today we're going to summarize some of the things that we have learned from the wisdom of the flowers. And this beautiful echinacea here reminds me so much of my horse Burgers, because when he passed away, I planted some of these over top of where he is buried in a meadow where they were growing wild anyway. And I hope that they are still growing over where he is. And of course, the echinacea has long been associated with healing properties. Flower essences, as you know, were developed by Dr. Bach, who was a bacteriologist and physician in England in the early 1900s. And he believed that emotional issues were the cause of all disease, and that disconnect between your heart and your mind and your soul's purpose is what led to disease processes. Now, of course, that might eliminate the idea of toxicity in your world, but why are some people in an area of toxicity responding with cancer and others are not? So there is some component of emotion, as we all know, in any time that we are in a dysfunctional state in our body. Dr. Bach believes that flower essences act to balance the emotional and spiritual energy within each of us, including our animals, and that flower essences can act as a catalyst to inspire well-being and health in your animals and in you. And in fact, flowers essences are made of the most vital forces in a flower. The flower in a plant. The flowers are the chi, and the full expression of the potential of the plant is what we see in these beautiful flowers. And so they have incredible healing properties. Flower essences are often prepared in a liquid form, and as they are in these bottles, they are the essence of the flower's vibrational frequency, the energy of the flower is transmitted to water and then diluted several times, as in homeopathy, to develop these flower essences that we can use with our pets. The blossom is selected under very specific conditions because these flowers come to us from a plant community, an environment, a particular arrangement of the solar system, the astrological system, and the environment of the area where they live, not just the direct plant environment around them. And so the energy of the surroundings of the plant are all infused in the wonderful healing properties of flower essences. This particular blend of flower essences that we use with our animals, botanical animal, are blended synergistically to work with all kinds of common situations for behavior and emotional issues that we see in our pets. Trauma, stress, abandonment, loss of a loved one, aggression, and insecurity are some of the conditions that we can see addressed with botanical animal flower essences. So, flower essences, again, are based on the vibrational signature of the flower, the vibrational frequencies of the plants. And there is, because they are so dilute, they are like homeopathy, there are no contraindications to using flower essences with your pet. The pet can have cancer, he can be on medication, he can be very frail and senior, or he can be an energetic puppy, who just got a bunch of vaccines. So it's really there's no time when you can't use flower essences with your pet because they are so gentle, and all they really do is raise the vibrational frequency of what's going on in your animal. And let's talk a little bit about that vibrational frequency. A normal healthy person or animal's vibrational frequency of different systems of their body will be between 75 and 82 hertz. For instance, cancer vibrates at 50 hertz. And it's really important to raise that vibrational frequency up to a healthy frequency so that the lower disease states of those lower vibrations cannot exist in the body. And so increasing your vibrational frequency will bring about health and reclaim health and maintain health. So it's really important to understand the aspects of vibrational frequencies in our lives. And we've all gone into houses, maybe, or a store where you just don't feel good and you want to get out. That might be a place with a low vibrational frequency. And certainly people and animals can have a low vibrational frequency. And people and animals can have a high vibrational frequency. There are certain dogs and people and a store or a house or even a landscape that you're attracted to because the frequency is high and you want that. You want to raise your own vibrational frequency. And in fact, there is a company called Vibes Up that creates personal beauty products like deodorant and cleaning products that all have a high vibrational signature in order to elevate the vibrational frequency of the area around you. So in fact, we've known from the miracle of quantum physics that in fact increasing the vibration of one thing will raise the vibration of the things around it. And so that is how flower essences work. The other important thing that people always want to know about flower essences are how are they different from an essential oil or a tincture, and what are they like compared to homeopathy? Well, in fact, the scale of concentration of the energy in these flowers varies with whether or not you have an essential oil or a tincture or a flower essence. An essential oil is a distillation of all of the aspects of the plant, the leaves, the bark, the stems, and in fact, the flowers as well. And those are boiled and distilled down to a very concentrated oil that is pharmaceutical grade and very powerful. And we will be talking about oils down the line on Conversations with a Corgi. And then tinctures are a little bit more dilute oil solution. So they are less concentrated than an oil, and they are in some ways safer to use depending on what they are if you're not very experienced with the properties of oils. And then finally, on the other end of the spectrum of less dilute, less concentrated, or more dilute, less concentrated, we have flower essences. And flower essences are like homeopathy. There's only a tiny bit of this flower's essence in that water that we create by floating the petals in the water in the sunshine for several hours. And it is really interesting. The water definitely has a different charge to it after you've floated the flowers in it. And so that vibrational frequency and energy signature of the flower is in the water that you floated in when you are making a flower essence. And then that is diluted again and again and again, perhaps, to make a flower essence. So they are very dilute, which is why they're so safe to use. But because they have that high vibrational frequency, they can really bestow a lot of health promoting properties and wellness for you and your pet. The flower essences contain, as I said before, the chi, or the life force of the flower. This is the flower's fullest expression, the plant's fullest expression of its life force. The flower is part of the reproductive process of the plant. And in fact, this is one reason they're so appealing to pollinators such as bees and hummingbirds and butterflies and dragonflies, because the life force in this plant is so strong, and in this particular flower per se, and these pollinators use that to nurture their young, keep them safe over the winter, provide food for them. And so it is really a miracle that we are able to translate that energy from the flower, the chi, the life force, the prana, into a liquid form so that we can use it to benefit us and our animals. And the flower has many qualities to each one of the flowers, and those energetic signatures or emotional relationships that these plants have to different emotions in our bodies is what allows them to be specific for specific situations. And so, as you know from all of the conversations with a Corgi where we looked at each flower essence from botanical animal individually, each flower offers something to help into creating a solution that will be good for sibling rivalry problems, or for clear thinking, or for safe journeys. And so it's really important to understand that each flower has its own individual unique identity, and that identity can be translated into the flower essence that will be benefiting your pet in any number of emotional ways. Flower essences restore balance to our bodies and to our emotional systems and to our physical systems, and they're really important when you are out of balance. The flower essence can really promote healing in a way that very few other things can, and as a result of that, flower essences are great to use in a craniosacral therapy session, for Feldenkrais work, or when you're working with Tellington T-Touch. And especially with the confidence course, some of the flower essences we talked about are particularly useful when you have your horse or your dog working in the playground for higher learning, also called the confidence course. And when you're in a state of healing, a lot of these flower essences can really help facilitate healing from other modalities. So it's really important, if you have something dysfunctional in your body or your system or your emotions, to look to the flowers for an answer, because their wisdom is ancient. And in fact, flowers have been a part of celebration and ceremony in many cultures, and they have always been looked at as a connection between the mind, body, and spirit. Just as I've mentioned with several of the plants and the flower essences, there is a connection between the height of these beautiful echinacea to the celestial bodies, the air, the sky, the astrological bodies, and then the connection of their roots to the earth to keep you grounded, but also in touch with your higher self, your higher being, your higher wisdom. And flowers do that naturally. And so it's really important for them to impart that to us when we're using their essences for health and wellness. Flowers have been used in healing for centuries. The ancient art of dew gathering was when, and I don't think, we're not too dewy out here anymore, it's a little later in the morning, but usually in the evening there is a layer of dew that comes down across this flower meadow behind me in my house, or at my house. And what happened in ancient times, they would take a cloth, usually linen, hand-spun cloth, and drag it over the dew on the flowers. And ancient people knew that that dew included all of the healing wisdom of the flowers. It really is a flower essence when you're using the dew from the flowers. So this ancient practice of dew gathering was the inspiration for flower essences and using the vibrational frequencies of flowers in healing. And it's interesting to note about bees. I don't know if we have one here at the moment. They're around everywhere, and I love them so much. I'm so lucky to live with so many of them. And behind me is a huge field of bee balm, which is just moving in the afternoons in the sunshine with bees gathering bee balm for their hives. And bees detect different electrical fields from different flowers, and that's how they know which one they want to go to. My lavenders in the backyard are still flowering, and a lot of the bees really love them, which is why I haven't harvested the flowers yet to dry them for things, because I want the bees to get as much as they need, because bees are in such desperate times right now. So the bees can tell which flower is which, and also the flowers, once a bee has landed on them, their electrical signal changes so that when another bee comes, the flower is emitting this different property, and the bee knows that that flower was just gathered from, and he should travel on and find another flower to gather from. So they have a high life force that even, well, and especially the bees can see the difference in. The other interesting thing about bees is that when they gather pollen from a flower, they beat their hind legs to make a rhythm, like a drum on the plant, and that releases the pollen, and then the bees can carry it away. And each flower that they land on within a species, and then individuals within that species, have a different vibrational frequency, and the bees are able to beat their feet to match the vibrational frequency of that species of plant and with that individual flower to release the pollen. And so there is something to this idea of vibrational force coming from the flowers, translating into the water that we use to create a flower essence. Each flower is profoundly intelligent and has an ancient wisdom. I mean, these echinaceas, these have been around for centuries, and these kinds of daisies as well, and the bee balm. I have some bee balm here. These little guys, I have lovely lavender bee balm. Most people know bee balm as that bright magenta color, but each of these flowers has a unique and interesting wisdom to impart to us and to the animals that we use flower essences on. And again, as I said, the force of life force is in these plants, the chi, the prana, the energetic force of the plant. And when we have someone who is in grave illness, it's really important to have that life force available to amp their own life force up, to either help them with the transition to another plane or to come back to this plane and finish their work. And flower essences have been known to work on the acupuncture meridians in particular, and they also are really useful for spiritual and psychological concerns, and they have been used in traditional Chinese medicine for centuries. Flower essences are thought to have a healing effect through the acupuncture and reflexology meridians of the body, the energy centers of the body. And in fact, flower essences also, as you learned from our series, impart healing properties to the chakras of the body. And the chakras, which we will be talking about in depth next week, are also energy centers for the body. And it's important for your physical, spiritual, and emotional health that your chakras be working really well. And the flower essences can help impart healing to the chakras, to promote good sound spinning of the chakras, and also to help the chakras stop spinning if someone is on the way to across the rainbow bridge. So flower essences have a role in all aspects of our lives. The energetic imprints and the life force of the plants are in flower essences, and these can affect our feelings, our mood, and our spiritual body, as well as our physical body. And as I mentioned, Dr. Bach feels that when there is an inner conflict between your heart and your mind, or your soul and your mind, and you're losing your way on your soul path, that is when you have disease or dysfunction in some way. And so flower essences can help you refine your soul path, reconnect your higher self with your grounded self. Just as I said, as these flowers reach for the sun and the sky and are still connected to Mother Earth. And these flower essences can impart that same principle to our pets and ourselves when we are in a state of dysfunction. And I know myself, years ago, I was really not understanding what my soul path was. I had some sense, and I was floundering around, and I needed a job to make money, and I was working in conventional physical therapy, long hours, and being physically and emotionally exhausted by it, and healthcare was changing, and so it was becoming harder and harder to do the kind of work I was doing. And I went to one of many shamans I have worked with, and she helped me reconnect my heart, with my soul and with my soul journey. And one of the things that was happening to me, and I now understand this so much better, was that I was getting sick. I was having chronic headaches and aches and joints in my body, and I literally couldn't physically do the things that were causing discord for me anymore. I had to be at a point where what my heart wanted to do was also in sync with what my mind wanted to do and what my spirit was meant to do. And when those things were all in accord, I was much healthier and I was doing better. And the shaman said to me that, in fact, one of the pieces of wisdom that I got from her was that I need to pay attention to my body. If I am not feeling well, that means I'm doing something that is not in sync with my soul path and with my consciousness of my mind and body and spirit functioning in a healthy way. And so now I can no longer work in conventional medicine because it is so discordant, in my opinion, and that matters because if it's not in your opinion, then it won't affect you the same way. But in my opinion, a lot of conventional medicine is so discordant with health. The way that people are working, when I go to one of my doctor's offices now, the people that take your intake and outgo and sit there all day, they have them on these high, like bar stool sized chairs. They can't put their feet on the ground. It puts a tremendous strain on your back, and it also puts them looking down at you as if they know everything and you don't know anything, which is not a good situation to be in when you are a sick person coming in, even if it's a cold. I mean, you really need to be feeling that one-on-one connection, and thank God the urgent care office is totally set up differently. The person has a wide desk so that you can't cough on them, and they're at your level or a bit lower. They have a chair right there so that if you want to sit down and speak with them, you feel like you're having tea with a friend. It's a completely different vibration and frequency and feeling than I get at the other doctor's office, where they're sitting on these high stools looking down at us. And as a physical therapist, I know those women's backs are in pain, and it is not a good situation. And I don't know how, with physical therapy being offered right in that building, they were able to let this happen. I mean, it just is very difficult for me to be in conventional medicine these days for even small things like that, let alone all of the other patient management things going on. And so now that I'm out of that field, I am much healthier. I have hardly any headaches, hardly any aches and pains in my body. And when I do have them, I know that I've been doing something that is out of sync with my heart and soul connection. And so part of what flower essences can do for us is keep us remembering and connected to that heart and soul connection, keep you on your soul path. And that is important for all of us. I have worked with people at the end of their life for years and years, and many of them were in their 90s and they were somewhat ill, maybe very deaf or couldn't see, but were still mental capacities all intact. And many of them said to me, "Why am I still here? Why haven't I died yet? Why am I living so long? This is such a difficult situation for me." And even some of them I've treated have been Native Americans with a lot of wisdom and ancient wisdom in their DNA. And I said to them, there is something you still need to be doing here on the earth plane. There are people you need to touch, lives you need to touch. And in fact, one of the fellows met a Cherokee friend of mine, and they did a big ceremony for the building and for another fellow who was passing or had just passed. And it was a very important thing in the lives of many people. And the fellow that initiated that whole thing died just a few short weeks later. And so there was a huge, big piece of his life plan that was still in place that needed to happen before he was ready to go on to the other world. So again, it's really important to connect your soul with your soul purpose and with your heart and your mind, because when those are out of sync, it is extremely disruptive to all of us. And there are people, you say, how can we have people doing work like collecting garbage or sitting in an office all day and typing? If those things are discordant with their heart and their soul purpose. And for some people, that may be their soul purpose. Their soul purpose may be caring for their child, and that may mean tolerating sitting in an office all day to provide the best for their children. And so it varies from person to person what that thing is going to be that meets their soul purpose. And it may be, many teachers I know, their soul purpose was to travel in the summer and come back and report the experiences of their travels to their students. So it can be very diverse and many things for each person. But the flower essences can connect us so that we can keep track of whether we are on our soul path or we're diverging. And when you have disease in your body, you are usually diverging from your soul path, and your heart and your mind and soul are becoming disconnected. And our culture, of course, makes that happen a little more frequently because it's so hard to generate income in this country and also be doing what your soul purpose is and feel good about it. But you have to really look closely at your life, and flower essences can help you do that. Flower essences also connect us to the interrelationship of all beings. Because they are so powerful and so wonderful and have so much wisdom, they also connect us to nature, to the planet, to all of the other living things on the planet, and to our animals. And that is the important thing for all of those listening to this. The animals are the important parts of our lives, and they are some of our deepest connections in our lifetimes will be with our pets. And it's so important that we help our pets be as healthy and happy as they can possibly be. I'm really impressed by what's happening at my sister's household with her pets. She has been feeding much higher quality, higher vibrational frequency food to her pets for a number of years, 10 years. And all of these animals are thriving into their later years. They are living much longer than anyone would have anticipated. And it is true, as Ted Karasote wrote in Pucka's Promise, if we feed our dogs better, they will live longer. You are what you eat. And we just need to look at that. And the same wisdom comes from the flowers that are in the flower essences, this idea of being connected to all living things. And part of that is eating unprocessed foods, eating organic foods. The vibrational frequency of a fresh-picked organic piece of lettuce is around 20 hertz. A piece of lettuce that was grown conventionally, sprayed with chemicals, and sat in the bottom of your refrigerator for 2 weeks before you ate it has a frequency of about 1 hertz. And then any food that you microwave has a 0 hertz. So you're getting no nutritional value really at all from any of the food that you microwave. It's so damaging. The electrons are spinning backwards when you do that, and it's really lowering the frequency of that food, and your body has to work really hard to bring that food up to a frequency that is beneficial to it. And the flower essences give us that wisdom and that connection of all things in the universe, the one mind. And it helps connect us to the planet and makes us more aware of what we are doing in our lives and of the things in our lives that aren't benefiting us. Flower essences have memories of the vibrational frequencies of these flowers and their life and the plants and flowers around them. So those flower memories are brought to us, and they trigger our DNA to remember our connection to nature and our connection to all other beings. Flower essences work on a physical level, an emotional level, and on subtle levels like your energy fields, your chakras, your meridians, and your acupressure points, and indeed even with your chakras. So it's so important to consider flower essences when you have an issue going on with your pet. And of course you might need positive training, and you might need to change your attitude, be calmer around the situation that's going on. Look at what your dog is trying to tell you, or your horse, or your kitty, or your bunny. But also look to the wisdom of these beautiful flowers to give your dog an opportunity to heal and to move on. So many of us now have rescued animals, and animals are so sensitive. They are emotional beings. They are deeply emotional beings. And the trauma they endure before they come to us is often profound and almost unimaginable. And it's so important to remember flower essences when you have a rescued pet, because it really can make the difference in deepening your connection with that animal and having him be a successful member of your household. So, this is Sally Morgan, and we've been talking about botanical animal flower essences. And I love these flower essences. I've used them in my practices for years, and they are so carefully formulated to really provide a maximum benefit to our pets in a variety of circumstances. They are available on my website, www.sallymorganpt.com, and also on my sister's website, drjudymorgan.com, and that's Dr. DR. And we both have used them and have a lot of respect for this company and for the properties of flower essences. So I am reminding you today of the magic of the flowers in the world around us and our connection to all of beings, all animals and plants and insects everywhere across the globe, and the life force that unifies all of us into one being, one earth being. We are all connected. We all have wisdom to share with one another if we just open our senses to hear the wisdom of the flowers and the animals and the plants and the earth itself. This has been Sally Morgan and Tristan Corgi for our final wrap-up episode about flower essences on Conversations with a Corgi. And we will be continuing next week to talk about the chakras. Tomorrow I have a special episode planned, which will be at around 9:25. And I am a physical therapist, a craniosacral therapist, and a Tellington Tea Touch practitioner for animals and people. And Tristan is a Corgi, a limp Corgi. And we want to wish you all a good day. And please look into using the magic of the flowers in your life. And just a reminder, when you go into your garden to pick flowers to bring into your house, ask permission first. It's such a idea of respect to say to the flowers, I want to bring your beauty inside. Is it all right if I take a few? And don't be greedy, and be careful with the plants around you. They have so many wonderful qualities that they are willing to faithfully share with us. And it really is a privilege that we get to share our lives with the plants and with these wonderful animals. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.